friends, welcome and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sigrid and I make videos about books because I freaking love them. Today's video is going to be something that I am bringing back to my channel, and that is reading wrap-ups. I'm so excited to tell you guys about the books that I have been reading because I have been reading quite a bit. So since I'm bringing this in March, I will be talking about the books that I read in January and February, and I plan on doing this like on a monthly basis. So hopefully you guys will like this type of content. So let's get started with my January books. So in January, I read 13 books for a total of 3,922 pages. So I'm going to start with the books that I did not finish. So we call that DNF. And for me, I like to split them in temporary DNFs and permanent DNFs. Temporary is when I just kind of set it down for a little bit and I plan on picking it up at a later time. Permanent is like I unhaul that book, like no. And then I'm going to work my way up from 1 star all the way up to my 5-star reads. The first book that I DNF'd is The Troop by Nick Cutter. So this book was described to me as a horror book. It's supposed to have body horror, it's supposed to make you scared, it's supposed to really mess with you. And I was like, yes, I want to be messed with. I understand that this book was written during a different time. I know, and I went in with an open mind. However, the fat shaming of one of the characters was just ridiculous. I don't understand how people can recommend this book to people and then not mention that. Like, it was like in like the first part. I feel like it's about a summer camp. And I was excited about it. I'm like, oh, a summer camp and horror, like that's so cool. So I'm reading it and they're just trashing this one character that is fat, and it's like, okay, I'm like, all right, maybe that's all they're gonna do. But no, it kept going on and on and on, and I was like, all right, I can't do this. Like, this is too much. It got worse and worse and worse to the point where I was like, I have to put this down because I'm getting angry. Like, how is this okay? No. So I'm sorry. I know a lot of people have recommended this book, but it's not for me at all. So I permanently DNF'd that one. The next book that I DNF'd was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Tartan. So I will be picking this up. This was definitely a temporary thing. I was listening to the audiobook for this and I just wasn't in the right headspace to listen to it. I think I would probably need to read this physically because I don't think I like the audiobook that much. Maybe that's it. But I feel like the concept for that book is really fun. So I believe it is about someone who is being murdered repeatedly. It's like the movie Groundhog Day, but you're solving a mystery of someone who just keeps getting murdered for, like, I don't know why. And it sounds really great. It's just, I just wasn't vibing with that audiobook and I just wasn't paying attention. And so it's my fault there. The next book that I temporarily DNF is Where the Drowned Girls Go by Sheenan McGuire. This is the latest book in the Wayward Children series. It is a fantasy series it's a portal fantasy series for, I wouldn't even say children because sometimes they be touching on some really like, you know, not children subjects. So yeah, it's a 7th book and I was really enjoying it. I feel like I'm probably going to rate this one pretty high when I do return to it. But when I was reading it, they were talking about people that I was like, I wasn't recognizing the names, or at least they sound really familiar, but I just didn't remember who they were. So I was like, I have to go back and read the previous books just so I will remember the worlds and the people and all of that. So I returned and I have currently now in March have reread all of the books. I can pick this up at any time now. So excited about that. Okay, so let's get into the books that I actually rated. The first book was a 1 star. 1 star for me means that something happened. Either your book was problematic or it just made me feel uncomfortable. And that's the reason why I gave this book a 1 star. This is The Reaper Incarnate. I don't even remember who wrote this book, and it doesn't matter because I do not recommend this book to anyone. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. So, here's the thing though. When I describe what this book is about, you're going to want to go and get it. Don't. Alright, so this book is a romance. I guess it's a romance. So it's a romance about this woman who, she hunts these men who prey on innocent children and women in like any type of way, and she assassinates them. which I thought was going to be really fun, like the adventure. It's going to be really cool. It has a main character who's like a woman, and she's like, you know, an assassin. Like, you can't get more badass than an assassin. And so I was like, yes, I was so living for it. And then I read the book. So she poses as a sex worker as she's trying to like get in with these guys, like to get intel, to get close to them so that she can get her job done. She is sleeping with these men. And at first I wasn't having it, and then I thought about it and I was like, you know what, maybe this is what she has to do to get close to them. You know, she's undercover, so she has to do what she has to do. Okay, she doesn't like doing it. And then I got later on in the book and she said she loves doing it. And that is where I draw the line. Absolutely not. No. These are some of the worst human beings in the world. And you mean to tell me that you enjoy sleeping with them? Like, you enjoy doing this? No. Like, no. So that's where I draw the line. There are so many things that I had an issue with this book. Number one, it is 99.98% smut. There is hardly any plot whatsoever. And for something that is so short, it's probably under 200 pages. It's so short, and the plot sounds so amazing that I really wish we would have gotten more of that. But it really just turned into like this reverse harem of her just having sex with everyone in this damn book. And no. This book broke me. Okay, so another thing so it was my first reverse harem book. If you guys don't know what reverse harem is, it's kind of like a group of people that is with that one person. Like, one person has like multiple love interests in a book. And usually it's like a man with multiple women. So reversing it, it's a woman with multiple men. And so I was excited because I like when, you know, women has equal opportunity for things. So I'm like, yeah, it's my first reverse harem. And I get this book and it's no. So there's so many like super intense, dark. It's not even dark. It's like darker than dark. It's black. There's knife play, there's blood play, there's like so many things, okay? And the thing about it is there was some like things where I'm like, there's no consent here when it comes to the knife play. Like, there's one character, he would just bring out the knife and just start cutting up people, and no, that's not okay. You ask first, okay? So that's another thing. And then there's another part where this character, like I said, it's like 99% smut. So this character, this one lady, is just going around doing it so many times to the point where she complains that she is sore. Like, she is just sore. But she continues to do the thing that makes her sore in the first place. And I'm like, this can't be consensual. Like, I don't care how you're trying to write it to make it seem like she's okay with doing this or she likes doing it. No. If my feet hurt and I'm like still walking around on my feet and it hurts, why am I doing it? Obviously, I don't want to do it. So, I don't know. That made me question consent. There's a lot of issues with this book. I can't even remember, but I did write a review on Goodreads. So, we're going to move on. All right, so we're going to go to my nice 3-star reads, okay? The first one is Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, and I learned how to say his name since doing my reading vlog. I read this book during a reading vlog for Down the Rabbit Hole, which is the book subscription company that I really love, and it was really fun. It was my first reading vlog ever. I didn't like the format it was written as. I feel like if it was written just as like a regular story, I would have liked it. So it follows these writers who decide to go to this like retreat for like 6 weeks or something like that, and what happens is that it's like I can't really say it without spoiling it, but it's really hard for me to like explain it without thinking of the plot twist. But it's a survivor's retreat, but it's not the way that it seems, okay? And then there's plot twists at the end where I'm just like, okay. The thing I had with this book is that it's not written as one isolated story. It's written as like the isolated story, as well as like some poetry thrown into it, and then like some short stories thrown into it. I was really enjoying the short stories. I do like them. It's just it's so much that it's just jumbled together, and it makes the book a little bit more confusing. And then also, they don't go by actual names. They go by descriptions of themselves. Like, one guy was named after his like knife sets, which was crazy. One guy was named Gutless something because he didn't have guts or something. I don't know, but yeah. So I feel like if I were to give Chuck a chance, if he writes something that's like an isolated, just one story without anything else added into it, I feel like I would like it. But I gave this 3 stars. I still kind of recommend it if you feel like that's something you would be interested in. Next up, we have The Good Sister. I don't have any problems with this book. I still liked it. I liked the book. I thought it was really good. The reason I had to give it 3 stars is because I feel like there are different types of people, right? There are people who like thrillers. There's people who like romance. And then there are people like me who likes both. If you're like me and you like both, you'll like this book. If you're someone who likes romance but not thrillers, why are you reading a thriller? But if you're someone who likes thrillers and no romance, you will hate this book. This book is like 80% romance. The thrillering aspect of this book doesn't start until like 70% of the book. It is insane. I remember like reading the book, and then like I was like on Goodreads like, where's the thriller? Like, where is the thrilling part? Where's the thrilling part? Like, it hasn't started yet. And then we get like all the way towards the end of the book, and that's when it happens. And I was like, okay, I liked it. The romance part was really good. I really liked these characters, but if you're someone who just don't like romance and you're in thinking it's going to be a thriller, you're going to hate this book. And I can't have that. Me recommending this book to someone and they're like, no, this book was terrible. It's not. But if you don't like romance, you're going to think it is. So this book follows like 2 sets of twins. So it follows one, and I think that she might be on the spectrum, but it's not really said in the book. I think she might be autistic. Not really said in the book whether she is or not, but I mean, there's like symptoms that she's having that's like really intense. She decides that she wants to have a baby and give that baby to her sister who cannot have children. And so she decides that she's going to find a random guy, have a one-night stand, get pregnant, and do that. Majority of the book is the relationship between her and this random guy that she meets. It's really cute. I love them together. I feel like they're 2 peas in a pod. But like I said, the thriller part just didn't start until like 70% of the book. And I liked it. I love the thriller. I thought it was really good, but yeah. It's told in 2 perspectives. It's told by like the main character as well as her sister through diary entries like from their childhood. We don't really get to know like what the current other sister is thinking of at the time, but like we get to see what she thinks through letters. Okay, so on to the 4-star reads. So we have Beneath the Sugar Sky by Sheena McGuire. I don't know which number this is, but it's one of the Wayward Children series. This one follows the daughter of one of the main characters from the first book, and it's kind of a Back to the Future kind of thing where it's like, okay, I'm disappearing. You're gonna have to fix whatever you did to my mother, because if not, I'm gonna literally die. Like, my hand is not here anymore kind of thing. So, the other kids decide to help her figure out what they could do to fix what they have done. I can't really say anything else because I feel like I've spoiled already too much. It was really good. It's not my favorite world. I think the world that they went to there is kind of like a world made of candy. And I think, even if I remember correctly, I think there's like seas made of like soda. And me as just like an adult woman, I'm just like, oh my God, yeast infection. Like, oh, not only that, I feel like that would burn. Like soda? Maybe no. Even if it's juice, like, oh my gosh. I don't know. Okay, the next book that I read was Every Heart a Doorway. This is book number 1 in the Wayward Children series. I love this. It was one of my favorite ones because it's kind of like a mystery into it as well. So it's like a fantasy, but there is like a character that is going around this boarding school. I didn't even tell you guys what this is about. So the Wayward Children, these are children who have discovered like a doorway into another like world. And that world is completely made for them. It's different ones. And when they're shot back to regular Earth, I guess, they go to like this boarding school with other children who have also experienced having a doorway and coming back to their world. And so in this book, there is like this mystery of like one of the characters, we don't know who it is, they're going around and just murdering people. Like, and so this book is like really interesting to me because it's kind of like, who is doing this and why? You definitely have to read this book first, because if you read book 2, it's gonna spoil book 1. So you have to read it in order. Next up, we have Margo Mertz Takes It Down. This book follows like this teenage girl who wants to go to Yale or Princeton, one of the Ivy League schools, but her parents like spent her like college fund, and so she creates this like small business of where she fixes things for her colleagues or other students, teachers, like people in the the neighborhood or whatever. Kind of like an Encyclopedia Brown kind of thing, but modernized. So one of the big like cases that she gets is there's like an anonymous site being ran, and it allows like the other students to post pictures of like people, like their girlfriends or whatever. It posts like nudes, sex, all of those things. They can post it anonymously, and we don't know like who's behind it or anything like that. So she is hired to figure out who's behind it and also to like shut it down. My thing about this book, I really enjoyed it, but the main character is not someone who is likable in my opinion. I feel like it starts off with her just being like super, like she has a huge ego. Like she is just like, I'm this, I'm that, like I'm smart, I can hack, all of this. And then a major thing that I had an issue with this book is that she pretty much uses another character to sleuth, like to figure out the thing. So she fakes date him while she's trying to like get like solve this mystery. And I understand that she wants to solve the mystery, but like playing with someone's heart like that, it's just just mean. And I didn't like it because he was actually a good person, and I didn't like that. No, that didn't sit right with me. And then also, it's not a big thing, but I feel like this book was a little too, it tried too hard to be too politically correct. It seemed like it was like creating plot twists and things just so you can say something like, oh, a woman doesn't have to do this, or you shouldn't do this to women, or this. I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, it's definitely woman empowering. We get it, but it's you don't have to create things just so this happens. So, all right, so let's get into my 5-star reads. First up, we have Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, who is also Sheena Maguire. Wayward Children, earlier, yeah. So I read this after watching Madison May from Paperback Princess on YouTube, and so she read it and she rated it 5 stars. So I was like, I really kind of want to read this book too. So the thing that she said that really got me into reading it was like, she was like, it's about mermaids, but they're evil. And I was like, heck yeah, I love mermaids, and if they're evil, that makes them even better in my opinion, because I love books with like morally gray characters. It's phenomenal, you guys. It's so good. I recommend the audiobook because it was really good in my opinion. I remember like listening to something while I was like cooking, and like I was shouting like, oh my god, no! I remember exactly what it was. It was a mermaid like climbing up the ship and getting someone off of it. I was like, okay, yes, okay. You go up there and get it. Like, go sis. Go and rip. Yes. Why am I pro mermaid? Anyways, so this follows a group of scientists who I honestly feel like the plot is really stupid, because in the past, there was a group of scientists that literally disappeared, and everyone suspect that it's like mermaids who did it. But no one knows that no one has proven that mermaids exist in like this fantasy thing. So this new group of scientists decides to go out to the same place and try to prove it. Either they are very brave, or just they're willing to risk their lives for science, or they're completely stupid, because like obviously you guys are gonna like meet the same fate. And it was just a good time. It was very thrilling, but it's like sci-fi too because of the mermaids thing. But like, oh my gosh, trust me, read the book. Thank me later. Okay, next up we have a non-fiction read. I read Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. It was so good. this book, it pretty much examines how like everyday activities that we partake in can be have cult-like activities. It's not a bad thing. It just kind of like explores that and how language can have a big factor in that. One of the things that I really like about this book, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a huge true crime person. Like, I love watching like YouTube videos of like the YouTube people like telling us like the inside of things that happened in the case, like from start to finish. Bailey Sarian, Brittany Vaughn, those are some of my favorite like creators of those type of contents. I love them so much. And so this book pretty much talks about one of my favorite like little sectors of true crime, which is cults. So they actually do go into some of the like more popular cults that resulted in mass casualties, unfortunately, such as the Heaven's Gate cult. I think there was kind of like a cult that believed like extraterrestrial kind of thing, and I'm not gonna really go into details about it, but it didn't end well. But I didn't know there were survivors from that cult. And so this author actually interviewed the survivors, and I think that is a unique twist because they're the only people that can tell us what happened. Like, nobody else can tell us what happened inside of that cult but them. And we got to understand what happened. And also, she also interviewed people from the Jonestown Massacre, which was like this preacher who pretty much talked all of these people into moving into this like foreign like nation, and he treated them really poorly, and he convinced them to drink the Kool-Aid, which is where we got this saying, drink the Kool-Aid, which means that he kind of convinced people to drink poison before they were rescued. So I definitely know like more about that than any other like cult case, because I feel like that's the most famous one and a lot of people cover it. But she did interview people who kind of had additional information about it, and so I did learn even more things that, you know, I didn't know about with that cult. So it's very interesting. If you are someone who has an interest in true crime, especially like cult, or just if you're like interested in like something new, like this is something that you can read and have a different perspective about something you don't know about. So I liked it. Next up, I read Neon Gods. I gave this 5 stars as well. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling by Katie Robert. I can't really go into too many details about it. It follows Persephone, who pretty much runs away after she discovers that she is being married to Zeus, who is kind of like known for killing his wives in the past. And so she's like, oh no, I am outie. So she runs away, and she ends up in like the territory where Hades lived. And a lot of people don't know that Hades still exists. Like, no one knows that. She definitely doesn't know it. And then when she finds Hades, he kind of like puts her up at his house, and they kind of like work together to essentially piss Zeus off, to like do little things that's gonna make him mad. And one of the things is like they do some things in front of people that they know they're going to go back and tell Zeus, and Zeus is going to be mad because that is supposed to be his wife, and no one is supposed to be touching her except him. But Hades is doing some things. It's definitely smut heavy, so it's definitely not recommended for children or anything like that, but it's really good. I love the like the banter between Persephone and Hades. It's definitely kind of like a grumpy sunshine trope, where it's like Hades kind of like, you know, this like mean person, but he has like a heart of gold for Persephone, and like I love that. Like, I ate that whole book up, and I read it, I feel like in a day. Like, it was so good to me. All right, next up we have Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I really like this book. I thought it was like a really good thriller. So this follows a woman who is in a coma. Like, when we start off, she's in a coma. She doesn't know what happened to her, like why she's there, but she's in the hospital in a coma, and she can hear like what's going on, and we're in her head and we're trying to piece together like what happened, and we're like hearing people come in, they're making confessions, they're talking about stuff, they're having conversations in front of her, and slowly we're like remembering things, we're putting together like the things that happened, why she's there. There is a heavy trigger warning for sexual assault. I feel like it's very graphic, and I'm like, I did not see it coming. It was kind of like out of the blue. and nothing was done. Like, it was no resolution for this. I definitely really enjoyed this book, and I definitely want to read more from Alice Feeney. Like, she did really good. Okay, so next up, I did a rereading with my brother. I did a buddy read of a book that I read the year before. And this one is called Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Now, I will say this. I wrote a whole review about this book on Goodreads because I didn't want to support 50 Cent. I do watch the show. I watch all his shows. I'm sorry, but it's good TV. But I feel like he is someone who is very immature and disrespectful to Black women in general. And so I was like, I don't want to support this guy at all. And there were so many people who were like, I know you don't support him, but like the book is really good. There's so many like helpful things inside of it. And like, so I decided to rent it from their library because I was like, I don't want him to like profit from it at any point, but I still want to see what's in it. I want to know what the hype is about. So I read it, and you guys, the book was good. And it pains me to say it because I didn't want to like support him, but that book was 5 stars. It's probably one of the best books, one of the best self-help books that I've read. And it comes from someone I feel like is probably not there when it comes to self-help. Like, I don't think that he's very mature. But a lot of the things that I had an issue with him about, he addressed it in the book. And he kind of gave good reasons as to why he has responded in the way that he had. He talks a lot about that. He talks about his relationship with his children. He talks about his dieting, which I feel like is a moot point now because he was like a trending topic on Twitter after the Super Bowl for him being a little overweight now. But I don't know what else to say about that. The person who is always bullying people is now being bullied. Anyways, one of the quotes that I will leave you with is that he says in the book that you don't have to like a person to learn from them. And I wrote that in my review because I felt like this is the perfect example of that. Even though I don't necessarily support 50 Cent, I definitely learned a lot from that book. My brother definitely learned a lot from that book. My boyfriend also read the book with me. He learned a lot from that book as well, even though some of the things he don't necessarily agree with. And I feel like if you read the book as well, you'll learn something, even if you don't necessarily agree with his tactics. And finally, the last book that I read that I rated 5 stars was Down Among the Sticks and Bones. This was one of my favorite Wayward Children series. This follows Jack and Jill. So these are twins who were pretty much raised completely opposite than their personality. One of them was raised to be tomboyish when they want to be super girly and wear pink. And the other one was raised girly when they want to just get dirty and, you know, be themselves. And so they find a doorway and they go to this world, and one of them gets to stay with this like vampire, and the other one gets to like go to the scientist and learn how everything works, and they literally get to resurrect people. It's so cool. It's really good. The thing about Sheena Maguire in the Wayward Children series is that it touches on so many different things. The representation in this book is insane. There's so many different representations in this book. They have gay representation, they have fat representation, they have, transgender representation. It's just so much. It goes on and on. There's even one about someone who is intersex, which I think I read in February. But it's not my favorite book. But intersex, that was my first time reading about anyone who was intersex at all. I did not know it was a thing, and now I am informed. I am educated now. You can learn from fiction. I really wish I could put that on the shirt, because people who are snobs and they're like, oh, I don't read fiction books, I read nonfiction. You can learn from fiction as well. Okay, so let's get into the books that I read in February. In February, I read 16 books and a total of 4,227 pages. Right, so let's go over my books that I DNF'd. I DNF'd Anatomy, a Love Story. So I discovered that this was going to be in a book box that I was no longer getting. I think it was in Unplugged, the YA box. Yes, that is it. It was in the Unplugged YA box. It was that book, and I read it. Well, I didn't read it. I read the synopsis, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good, because I think what happens in this book is they steal dead bodies from the cemetery, and they steal bodies from the cemetery and pretty much practice on them, if that makes sense. It's not hurting them, it's just they need cadavers to like do their medical stuff. And so that's what they do. I listened to the audiobook for this and I couldn't get into it. I don't know if this is a permanent or temporary DNF, but I didn't like it, so I stopped reading it. Next up, we have Roman by Sophie Lark. I was on a roll reading all of her, I think it's Underworld series. It's like a mafia love series on Kindle Unlimited. I read them each like back to back to back. And then when I got to Roman, I think this might be book 4 or book 3. I wasn't feeling it. It's a bully romance, and that is how I know that bully romance is just not my thing. The guy was so mean to her. I can't. I feel like if it's just like a little bit of meanness I can deal with, but this guy literally bumped into her with his shoulder and she fell. Like she fell on the sidewalk and her like clothes ripped. I'm like, that, no, like that's almost assault. So not only that, when he was like a teenager, he like literally threw coffee on her. What the, like, what? So I don't know. He was just created so unlikable that I was like, I can't, like, this guy's making me mad. This guy. And then I think the last thing I read was that he's like over, like, he's the heir to like this mafia family and he threatens her. He literally was like, do you know how easy it would be for me to like, you know, have you whacked? That was me like paraphrasing. But yeah, he threatened her. No. I feel like I would probably go back and read it though, just because I just wasn't in the mindset and I was like, I'm not feeling it. But I think this is a temporary DNF. All of the other books that I read in this series were really good. All right, so let's get started with the 3-star reads. First up, we have We Were Liars. This is a YA thriller about, it's about this kid, this girl. She goes to like this summer house with her friends. I think they're like wealthy people, and something happened one summer. And then all of a sudden, like, she can't remember. She can't remember what happened. And, like, she goes back and all her friends is like, I don't even know. Like, she can't remember what happened. And then, like, none of her friends are talking to her. And then, like, the book starts with her, like, going back to this, like, summer, like, house. So there's, like, some plot, some triggering things for, like, racism. Because the main character is white and she was dating, I forgot what race he was. I don't know if he was black or if he was like another race, but like one of her family members was just not approving of it because he was a minority. And I didn't like that. Like it just, no, I didn't like it. I felt like the plot twist was pretty easy to see. Yeah, it was just okay. I just feel like I definitely don't think that it's a book that needs to be as hyped as it is on TikTok. It definitely wasn't my favorite. I didn't rate it 5 stars. I was, you know, it was just okay. It was just a book. I read it and it was okay. Like, no, it's definitely overhyped in my opinion. Another book that I feel like is overhyped is A Dowry of Blood. I read this because I kept seeing a lot of people talk about it, and it's so many people was like, the pros of this book, and I'm like, I did not like it. I just don't understand what the hype is for this book. So this book follows Dracula's wife, and I don't even know in the book if they say Dracula. Is it in the book where they say Dracula? Because I don't remember them using Dracula's name. So this book is written from her perspective, like it's written as letters to her husband, as, you know, stating why she had to kill him. It's okay. I mean, it definitely wasn't great. There's definitely some quotes that I really do like. I like when she was like, I didn't start off wanting to kill you, but like, you know, it had to be done, whatever. It was okay. I liked it, but I just kind of feel like people definitely overhyped that book so much. Next up, I read The Echo Wife. It's another thriller. So this book is about a woman who is a scientist, right? She's married. Well, she starts off being married, and then all of a sudden her husband divorces her, and she realizes that he's used her work to create a clone of her. I don't know if I would be offended by that. Like, you could have cloned literally anybody in the world, and you picked me. like, I would not be offended. Like, I would just be like, oh my gosh, what? But you picked me to make a clone. So he marries the clone wife, and then all of a sudden the clone calls up the original wife and's like, hey, like, our husband is dead. Like, I'm sorry, I killed him. I need your help. That's pretty much how the book starts. And that's what happens. It was okay. I feel like that's the only thing that happened in this book. I don't think that anything else happened. It's just like, you know how most thrillers, it's like there's a plot twist and then like there's another plot twist and then like it just keeps going and you're on the edge of your seat. I was comfortably on my seat. Like, I was never on the edge of my seat during this entire book. I never moved. I feel like there wasn't any plot twists. There was like one where we figured out, I'm not going to say what the plot twist is, but it was like one, and it was like, I don't really care. Like, so I don't feel like this book, I probably wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I'm okay with reading it, but like, I wouldn't reread it. I wouldn't recommend it. It would never come up if someone said, hey, can you recommend me a thriller? I would never say this book unless they specifically say, I want something about clones. I'd be like, hey, this, but that's it. Next up, we have Across the Green Grass Fields. This is book 6 in the Wayward Children series. It is my least favorite book in that series. I hated this book so much. I continue to rate it 3 stars each time. The only thing that I liked about this book is that it talked about a character who was intersex, and I didn't know what that was, and I liked that it was represented in this book. However,
nothing happened in this book.
Nothing.
This book was a waste of my time. It was the most boring land. I would literally be so mad if I am transported to this land. I would rather go to that sugar candy land than this. I would rather sit in that pool of soda than go to this land. So this follows a girl. She goes to this land and she is like, there's like half horse people. Centaurs? It is so boring. Nothing happened. The most interesting thing that happened in this book, in my opinion, is that they went to a fair. Is that the most? No, I think it was just literally her sitting at the table and her parents telling her she was intersex. That is the most interesting part of this book, because that was the part where I learned, and that was at the beginning of the book. I didn't like this book. If it was possible for me to like read the series without reading this one, I would. And I think it's possible because I don't feel like this character is going to come up at another time. But I was like, I've read all of them trying to get back to book 7, so I might as well read book 6. But honestly, it's my least favorite. No. Let's get into my 4-star reads. So first up, we have Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Identity, and the Meaning of Sex. This is a nonfiction book, and it's pretty much a textbook on being asexual. It's literally a textbook. It reads like a textbook. It's very informative, but I felt like the reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because it was very textbookish. It went into a lot of things that I felt like was a little bit unnecessary and kind of like off scope. I feel like it just went into too much that I was like, why are we here? Why are we over here when we're supposed to be over here? But I felt like I learned so much about asexuality, and it definitely is something I would recommend to anyone who is interested in learning more about it, and just wanting to read more about it in general. Yeah. Next up, we have a horror book called Come Closer. This book gave me nightmares. This book, I had to sleep with the lights on after reading this book, and I put it on my Goodreads, and I was like, this book terrified me. If you want something that is going to scare you and make you stay up and not be able to sleep, I would recommend this book for you. This book is about a woman who is being possessed by a demon. That is the entire book. She is being possessed by a demon. That's it. There is no happy ending. And I love books with no happy ending. I love untraditional books, but I think that is what made me scary. I feel like there's only certain things that make me really scary. Books about evil children and books about like things that I can't control, such as like ghosts, like the demons, spirits, things like that. I feel like if it's like a serial killer or like things like that, I feel like I could like, I'm pretty sure I won't like win, but I could try to like fight my way off. But like, how can you fight a ghost? Like, your hand will go through it. So yeah, that's why I'm scared, because I'm like, I can't do anything about it. But if it's like you know, somebody else. Next up, I read a graphic novel. This is kind of like a graphic novel slash romance novel, and this is Lore Olympus Volume 1. So after reading Neon Gods, I was looking for more Hades and Persephone like retellings. And this book, I feel like a lot of people talk about it. It's really cute, and it's so like, well, like, yeah. My thoughts. There's not a lot of story in this book. I understand that it started off as like a webtoon or something, and then like, I guess just made into books. But this book doesn't really cover a lot of the story. And I feel like we're already on book 3. Like, book 3 is currently coming out like this year. And I just feel like it's going to be edition after edition after edition. I don't think I'm going to be continuing it. I think I'm going to just try to get it from the library instead of buying it. I will be getting rid of my copy. I just feel like for the price and like, no, I'm not going to put that on my bookshelf and like waste the space when it's like, it's not, it's so like, some of the things were just pictures. Some of the pages were just pictures. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's a good read, but I don't know. Maybe it should have just been longer, or I don't know. I really don't know what else to say, but I rated it 4 stars. It was okay. I enjoyed what I did read, but I just feel like I wish it was more. For the price and buying a hardcover story, I felt like we really didn't get that far. Next up, we have Come Tumbling Down. I don't know which book this is, but it's a Wayward Children series. I don't remember this book at all. I feel like this is a book where it's like multiple characters, which I like. I feel like it's not just following one person, it's following multiple people from the series, but I don't remember what adventure this was. Come Tumbling Down. Oh, yeah, I do remember this. This picks back up with Jack and Jill. Yeah, this definitely follows Jack and Jill and what happens after book 2. Yeah, I think that's why I rated it 4 stars. I tend to like the books that include Jack and Jill. I like them. They bring interesting stuff to the books. My next book is My Best Friend Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I honestly think this book deserves to be a 5 star. I don't even remember why I rated it 4 stars. It should be 5. I apologize. This book, I listened to the audiobook and I definitely recommend it. I loved it. So this book follows a girl, and it starts from like their middle school, like when they first meet and be friends. 2 best friends, 2 girls in high school, and they met like in middle school, but it covers that too. And I thought it was so cute, and it's funny. There's like certain parts of this story that's like super funny to me, and I remember laughing out loud while listening to the audiobook. I was like, ha! And I was like cleaning up my house and laughing because it was like some parts that was so funny. But so it follows like this girl, her best friend, they were like doing drugs, and something happens. Like, she goes missing for such a long time, and when she returns, like, she's just weird, like, you know, and it just seems like something is happening. And like from there, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, she's not showering, she smells, like she's not changing her clothes, like she just has really bad behavior. And then like certain things started happening. It's like she's evil, like, you know, evil things started happening. Okay, yeah. So she needs an exorcism, and that's why it's titled that. I'm not good at this, so it's a really good story. I just don't give it justice, but it's so good, and I can't really explain anything else without really like ruining the book. So I'm gonna move on. Moving on to our 5-star reads. First up, we have The Woman in the Dark. This was another book that I read as part of my reading vlog for Down the Rabbit Hole. Love this book so much. It is about a woman whose family moves it moves into her husband like childhood home. And it's now like a home that people were murdered in. And like creepy things start happening. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Creepy things start happening in a house where people were murdered in. And you moved in. Like you chose to move in. So I really enjoyed it. If you guys want to learn more, you can kind of listen to that vlog. But it was really fun to make, and I really like this thriller. It made me feel so many emotions. There was like so many plot twists, and I was like, oh my god, like this book is freaking awesome. I actually ended up keeping the book, which I very rarely do for thrillers. But I think I want to reread that eventually. Next up, we have a graphic novel, and it's called How to Be Ace, a memoir of growing up asexual. I love this book so much. It was so cute. I finished it in like a few, one sitting. In one sitting. It's so cute. It actually covers not only asexuality, but it also touches on OCD as well. And I loved it. It's so cute. And like, I feel like if you're someone who is also like still interested in like learning more about asexuality, if you think you're someone who identifies as it and you just want to learn more about it, I would suggest this book as well. I feel like the other book that I talked about, although I rated it a little bit lower, it covers more stuff. This one is more of a fictional depiction of how how it would be. Like, you know, if you identify with this character, that might be you. Asexuality is not like one thing. Like one person is not going to have like everything, you know, it's not going to be one person that is a symbol for asexuality. It's different with every person. So I'm learning more and more about it, and yeah. Next up, we have Before the Coffee Goes Cold. I think this one is my first book that is a translated fictional work, and I'm excited. So it's about this restaurant, this like coffee shop, right? I think it's a restaurant. It's a diner. It's about this diner that has this booth, and it's magic. So if you sit in this booth, you have the ability to go back in time and talk to anyone that you want to go to. Now, there are some rules. I'm not going to talk about all the rules because I think part of the story is learning about the different rules. But as long as your coffee is hot, you can stay there and talk to the person that you're meeting. And it follows different people. It's like a few different stories here, and it follows their story of them using the booth and going back, and why the person, like who are they going to meet. I cheered up. There's some characters that, you know, they're going back to meet people who are no longer there, and or there's one where the woman goes back to talk to her husband who has Alzheimer's, and I teared up a little bit. That got me. It was fantastic. I definitely recommend it. It's a short story and I fully enjoyed it. Next up, we have the best fantasy that I've read so far, Black Sun. Oh my god, no one told me that this book was going to be so good. I've heard like some mixed reviews on this. I heard people say this book was boring or I couldn't get into it. I didn't experience that at all. This book was so like interesting to me. I couldn't put it down. I think I might have read it in one sitting, or at least like in 2 days. I'm pretty sure it was one sitting though, but it was so good. And I feel like you have to go into this book not knowing what it's about, but I'm going to tell you what it's about. So when we first get into the book, right, we meet this one character, and you don't know what's happening. And I think that's a good part. You don't know what's happening, but you know something is not right. So his mom is about to do something to him. I'm not going to tell you what she is doing, but his father is trying to get into the door. He's trying to get into it and saying, you can't do this to him, don't do this to him, and all of this. But she is giving to him something that is like a pain reliever. And I'm like, what is she about to do that he needs pain reliever? And that story ends. It picks back up later on and you figure out what it is, but I'm just gonna say that he is like one of those like chosen one characters. Oh my god, and it's so good. And it follows this other girl, and she's like their version of a siren. Like she has the ability to sing and like manipulate other people, and like she has eyes, and I think when she gets in water, like she has a tail. It's so freaking good. Oh my gosh. so much happened. It's so like the adventure, like, oh, I love it. I can't really get into too much because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I think you have to experience this book. When I read this book, I had other books that I was going to read. I was willing to forfeit like every book that like out there, and I was like trying to like get the ebook. I was going to buy the ebook for the next book, and I realized it's not even out. It's not even out. That is my only regret. So this actually shows you guys, this just came in the mail because I had to get the physical copy of this. I listened to the audiobook as I was like reading the ebook, because I have to, like, if I'm listening to the audiobook, I have to physically see the words in order to be fully immersed into a fantasy. So I had to get a copy of this, and I don't normally do this. I don't normally go back and buy books that I've read. But number one, I'm probably going to reread this as soon as the new one comes out in April, and it's fantastic. I recommend it. It's definitely worth whatever hype that it has, and even more. Okay, next up, we have one of my favorite Wayward Children books. I know I keep talking about them, but this one is In an Absent Dream. If I had to pick a world from the Wayward Children series, it would be this. This one follows Lundy, who is like the psychologist at the Wayward Children school. She is stuck in the body of, I believe, like a 10-year-old. So we follow her going into her like world, and the world is based on logic, and I feel like that's what I like about it. Everything that you do in this world has to have like equal value, and I love that. I love that. There's like this little bordering system, like and there's like this like little like the market. That's what it's called. There's a market where you can like go and get things, and you can swap and trade for them. It's so fun until like you owe someone something, and then you literally becomes a bird. I don't think I explained that right. But if you owe people things, right? So everything has like a consequence. If you like buy something, either you pay with money, but if you can't and you owe someone something, like parts of you physically change. And if it gets too worse, you will literally turn into a bird. It sounded better. It reads better, okay, than it sounds. Next up, we have Ivan from Sophie Lark. This is probably my favorite book that I read during February. It was so good. It is my first mafia romance. It follows a woman who is an assassin. What? A woman assassin? Check. I'm sold. Let me buy this damn book. Okay. So she is hired to kill the head of the mafia family. They call it a bratva. And his name is Ivan. And literally, you guys, when she goes to his house and she's attempting to, like, you know, murder him in his sleep, and his eyes open, I was reading it and I literally screamed. I literally was like, ah! And, like, everybody's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? His eyes open. And I'm literally like, oh my God, his eyes open. Like, it was a good time. I was like, oh my gosh. And he literally gets up and like starts fighting her. And I'm like, wow. This was one of the best books that I read. I fully understand why people rave about Sophie Lark. This book was freaking amazing. I recommend it to people who are not even into romance, because it's more than that. It's romance, but it's also like an adventure. It's also like I can't even, it's like an adventure. It's really good. It's really good. If you like characters where there's like a woman and she's very independent, headstrong, she's gonna do what she gotta do kind of thing, read this. Like, she is a strong female and I loved it. So I ended up trying this book series out after seeing like Sophie Lark make like a video about her writing strong female characters, and I was like, let me go check out like Ivan. And like I don't regret it at all. I love that I checked it out and listened to her. All right, and the last book that I read was the second book in the Sophie Lark series. This is called Snow. I also enjoyed this. Now, it's a mafia romance, but the main character isn't in the mob. Like, he's not in the mafia. He's a underground boxer. If you can make me, someone who don't even like sports at all, like boxing, like a romance that has boxing in it, you are a fantastic author. And Sophie Lark is, because she had me like, oh no, oh, like I'm really caring about this guy. Like, what? Yes, it was a cute love story. So this one follows a guy named Snow. He is an underground boxer. He has ambitions to one day go to the US and, you know, be an actual boxer and, you know, compete. And it follows, I think her name is Sasha. I think the love interest name is Sasha, but I'm not really sure. But she is a doctor. She just graduated, you know, from medical school. And her father, she comes home to find that her father is in debt with the mob. He's like, his business, his like restaurant that she's known since like she was a little kid, it's like, it's not doing well. And he owes the mob like so much. And so what she does is she goes to like the head of the mob and she says, look, I'll work for you if you'll just let my dad go, like forgive his debt, and I will work for you for however long it takes. And he agrees, and so that's how she meets Snow, because he forces her to go to these like underground boxing matches and like work on the characters, because they get hurt a lot. It's like really bad. And so she's like working on it, and she has to do a lot of like things that she doesn't want to do while working with this like these people. Yeah, but it's really good. It's a fun time. It really is a fun time. Yeah. But I love Ivan more. It's definitely one of my favorite books. Ivan was like up here, but Snow is like right here, if that makes sense. But it's still 5 stars. They're both still really good books. I will be continuing on with that series, and you'll probably see more things in March. But yeah, that's all of the books that I read in January and February. Hopefully I can do this every single month and it won't be as long. But yeah, until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.